Oh shit. Started the stream by accident. Either way. My name is FrogBear. I'm very sorry for the noise. My name is FrogBear. I don't know why I was looking at the light. No, my name is Ramirez. You can also call me FrogBear or Rami, what normally people call me. Today's episode is going to be a civilized society. Highbrow, highbrow. And the reason what sparked this conversation, at least within me, is the fact that so I finally done it. I finally, I'm a really good, I can ask really good questions that pertain to certain angles of things that I remember somebody telling me yo, you can get too close to the truth asking these sorts of questions, and especially with my line of thinking, especially with how much reason I like to put towards things, yeah, I could imagine that it gets me into trouble. Because and somebody made a joke man, you need to make a statement, man. You need to come out full and be say that you love life and this and that, and I'm like, what the fuck ever, dude. You know what I mean? Personally, I don't care to some degree. And yeah, but I thought it'd be funny because I was thinking about it, actually making these statements, and in the process of writing something out, I realized some of the logical fallacies that exist with the whole very notion of me having to make this sort of stupid statement. And I have good reason for it. Because every time that I ever argued, or any time I ever spoke about 9/11, the discrepancies between geopolitical dealings that we're told, right? Whatever the news says, whatever your history professor said, whatever bullshit you were fucking taught to regurgitate and to repeat whenever you were asked these sort of questions amongst your peers, all of that is very simulated, and nobody will ever go outside of those parameters, ever, if ever. And it kind of pained me when I was writing this out. It pained me to actually want to write this bullshit out. And why? It's because people on the left, largely on the left, people on the right were the worst case of this. They used to be the absolute, no offense to anybody who's on the right now, or who's right leaning or this or that, but back in the day, you were the hardest people to communicate to. You were the hardest people to accept the fact that the establishment, police officers, FBI, agencies of government, you used to be so hard-headed that you would not accept the fact that facilities of government or faculties of government could be controlled, or there could be no corruption. Stupid shit like that would be entertained on the right used to really piss me off. But now it's not even you guys. Now that whole thing has switched to the left. And now the left is the one parroting that we should trust the state. We should give more power to the state, and we should create a monopoly so the state can decide these things. And now their cognitive dissonance is understanding that the people who are in charge of these things don't want our benefit. You know what I mean? They're not looking out for us. And now it's the left that doesn't understand this. Meanwhile, right-wingers have flipped. Now to me, it's oh, you're the truth movement now. Meanwhile, whatever this is, but there's stages to this. I will read to some extent what I wrote. I find the scenario of having to explain that I love life, I look forward to fighting the good fight, I have no thoughts of surrendering this life without dealing blows to this sinister system. That's how I begrudgingly wrote this. I used flowery speech. When I really don't want to write just plain text of I love life, or I find it even difficult now to want to be like, I have no intentions of abstaining myself. Like, having that dialogue to a camera really irks me, because it's like, oh, we're finally admitting, by and large part, in society, right? Because of how sophisticated this criminal organization, or how sophisticated this soft back scratching money laundering operation that Democrats have established here, that pay to play scheme that was a largely created, incentivized, and pushed forward, propagated by the Clinton administration, by the Clinton Foundation, right? These people were philanthroping so hard that they were getting paid $500,000 to go speak to random ass people in the middle of the desert, right? Like, when I have to entertain these thoughts, and when I have to word it out, and I have to think it through, I look at the left and I'm like, and you people call yourself the intellectuals? And you people control the universities by and large part? And this goes back to my original problem, which was no wonder right wingers or right leaning people fell to the same fucking bullshit, because the institutions they're that powerful. They got that much of an iron grip on the minds of people that they can't see outside of this paradigm. Civilized society, which is why I named this stream this way, because it's just people entertain that this is the epitome of society, while largely ignoring the fact that this whole country is run by criminals, and it rewards the sophistication of your criminal activity, especially when you get to such a degree like these corporations, where now you're pillaging, now you're committing egregious human rights violations, but yet it's all under the guise of civilized society, right, guys? And this is why, the more I think about it, the more I put myself in this thought process, the more I really begin to just sigh, because it's just like, in order to maintain the American utopia the way it is, in order to maintain this level of complacency here in the States, it requires the pillaging, the destruction, and the slavehood of every other country and its resources in order to maintain this country, or in order to maintain the facade. It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of resources. But the bigger point that I want to get to is, but it's not efficient. At no point in time do they ever hire people to create or to establish an efficient system, because it would have too much, it would leave too much wealth for everyone else. And that's something they don't want. They don't want to create wealth. They don't want to produce new life, because it would put you get to where we're at now, where there were enough people that figured it out and kind of started pointing to other things, and the general populace is now getting more educated, to the sense that we're experiencing a great reset. But are we experiencing this reset because it wasn't planned, or because it was planned? Because the last one happened 100 years ago. I don't know. There are so many things I have to entertain. Entertain as in, to me, this is entertaining. Thinking these sorts of things out, thinking these sorts of puzzles out, I find this entertaining as fuck. I played Sudoku as a kid. Back to me reading this. If that statement flies over your head, I'm just explaining that I don't plan on Epsteining myself. My searching, poking, prodding, probing, scavenging for truth, has been very fruitful as of recently. I plan on being that very thinker that maps out, charts out, the very systems used against us. My message does not just encompass America. I hold love and sympathy for all citizens of the world, unlike others. I know we all brandish our shackles differently. Imagine living in the epitome of a civilized world and require a public statement like this. Bruh. Oh, we live in a perfect world. We live in a very great society where nothing goes wrong. There's no criminal activity. Da 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 da. MK Ultra was a lie. There's no way that there could be any. There's no evil man who decided to figure out human behavioral science to such a degree that he can create drones of people. No way. I'm just using MK Ultra as an example. We like to entertain these thoughts of not me or people who watch this channel, but everybody else likes to maintain these ideas that these concepts don't exist. People like to believe that they're immune from propaganda, that they're immune from whatever bullshit is being spouted through whatever speaker, whatever talking head. But by and large part, it takes a lot of effort to undo matrix programming. It takes a lot of effort in order for you to understand that back the blue, it's just another funny way of saying back federal oligarchy, back the guards, you know what I mean? Back the city guards, without realizing who they've signed their allegiance to, who their faith essentially lies with. And this is coming from a, like, if I'm going to do a case study on a person, let alone a group of people, I have to understand what's their history. What has their previous actions proven to me? When you start mapping that thing out, it's just like, oh. So the city guards are only ever going to protect the federales, right? Like the feds, the people who, right, the mayors, the political officials, those are the people who get saved, and they already live in pre-organized areas that they can mount themselves in. I don't know. I'm losing myself in how. It's like, do I really want to begin to word all this? In a video, at least. Like, I could write this for days. Actually, I should probably show my drawings, because I actually wrote it on page 32. Why does that matter? It doesn't. But, the drawing, not a very good drawing, but, you know, repurposing my pages and shit. Yeah. A civilized society. The highbrow. And to really encompass how sophisticated it's I don't know. People would say that it embedded itself into the system. The more I think about it, it was cooked into the system. I think all facets of our infrastructure, all facets of our federal agency, from their conception, they were built with a certain goal in mind. Every single one of them. From the banking system to financial systems to, I don't know about the voting system. You know, like our whole establishment of government. I don't know about that. But clearly, for sure, right? To some degree, you can assume that there's a facet of people, a facet of a subsection of the human populace that understands the human system, I mean the American system, the judicial system, and it understands it to such a degree that it maintains a monopoly over the understanding of how to, how to be a lawyer, how to be a politician. Like, then you get into the whole thing of Postmaster General Jay Gould. I don't even know. I'm already pronouncing it very incorrectly, but he talks about how there's a very specific language you have to use when you're dealing with legal documents. He has like a whole course that will be like, all right, this is how you gain your sovereignty. This is how you essentially claim ownership over your birth certificate or your birth. What do you call that? Your social security number. And so there's this whole back end drop of reality that we don't know how it works, and it uses the post office, local official offices, like writing letters, stamps, and when I think about the history of that, it's like it all comes down from signature rings, where to some degree you needed a form of a stamp that approved of certain things. Civilized society. Yeah, where did that go? I don't know. I think I just the monopoly. The fact that there's a group of people that maintain a very grip on the understanding of this system, and it's been like that for over 100 years at this point. And to see, I don't know, I want to see a conservative effort to control certain subdivisions of the populace, to control certain subdivisions of jobs. Now, I didn't want to actually say it like a joke, but when I think about it, that is what it is. There are groups of people who understand um, jobs, that infrastructure layer. They understand that certain positions earn you a certain amount of money, so those jobs must be maintained. But then, how do you keep unwanted people from joining those jobs? Well, you promote them a different culture, you promote them a different desire so that they work towards other things. And realistically, in America, the way I see it, only really traditional families or traditional family households will groom their kids to be accountants, politicians, um, because it comes with this whole thing of like Machiavellian tactics, maintaining an image, making sure their kids don't do anything fucking stupid because then that'll ruin their chances later in life. This and that. There's this entire backdrop to how to live a human, how to hit, in this case it's how to maintain a human life, how to make a family, and this and that. There's like a science to it. There's also a monopoly over that. But yet we like to believe, oh no, highbrow society. We live in the epitome of, there's no way that there's invisible hands that dictate our family households. And it's just like all of the kids that just graduated went to college. Um you literally have an entire wave of kids who were just swept up at the age of 18 and taken to indoctrination camps willingly. And not just willingly, they took out loans. They created this whole pocket of debt that will forever be carried with them until it's a six-figure debt. And the only people who will incur that are the females by percentages. Like, there's such a level of sophistication. It's not like it's sophisticated. It's just as time has progressed, these people kept implementing these facets of systems that just enslave you, destroy you, and it all kind of weighs on the fact of you being ignorant. It weighs on the fact of people being ignorant. My bad. People, citizens, civilians, whatever we want to call this subdivision of people. And yet, highbrow society. That's the one thing that keeps. I just see like a gentleman with that like round hat, and he has a newspaper. And every time I'm explaining all this and explaining how deeply rooted the faults of this, well, it's not that they're faults. It's that I would always say that the system was fixed from the beginning. The system was designed in mind to have two different outcomes. It's why some people can avoid paying taxes and other people getting 40% of their paycheck just completely taken away from them. But either way, right? When I see all that, I just see the gentleman drinking his tea. Highbrow society. It's all I think in my head every time, and it just gets me so angry. I don't know why. And that I should probably draw that. I should probably like draw him, have that like circular table, but around him, right? Like one half of it is like Europe burning itself, and the other half of it is like America burning itself, because it's the same fucking thing. It's the same fucking Western culture that is destroying both aspects of this, and now you can't say it's because, oh no, but they're a completely different class of people. No, nigga. We're all getting this corporatist garbage. We're all getting fed the same fucking chemicals. At this point, does it really matter? When you literally have the entire world spouting leftist garbage like LGBTQ plus this, that, maps, this, that, like it's a disease. This has not only been encapsulated in one country, but the civil revolution is being encapsulated around the fucking world. But highbrow society, there's no criminal organizations. That's all I see is there's no criminal minds. They're the only kind of criminals that exist are the dope boys that sell their weeds, that sell their drugs. And it's just like, nah. Like, by and large, your highbrow civilized society is what allowed all of these criminals to embed themselves in all of these positions. It's highbrow society that essentially allowed for the initial black rings to even begin. It's highbrow society that blackmailed Queen Elizabeth. Oh yeah. That's why it's called Victoria's Secret. There's a whole portion of history with, dude. If you look into the history of cameras, you'd figure out that the first person who figured out how to catfish people was Queen Elizabeth. I can't remember which one it was, but like she literally was the queen of catfishing. And then, she started blackmailing people, and then there was pictures of her that leaked, and then that's where it's assumed that the Rothschilds got their foot in the door with basically stealing some of her pictures. That's why there's this whole cultic reference to Victoria's Secret. But highbrow society, the queen doesn't eat children. And it's just like, it's not that the queen eats children. It's more of the fact that her son is hanging out with this dude who has this island who's doing these things. And then when you kind of look into the history, like, right, there's all these statues and all this weird symbolism. If you look into any of the history of that, it dates pretty far back. It goes pretty far back. Lose my voice that entire process. And the reason why it goes that far back is when you look at Aleppo, and when you look at the bathhouses, and when you look at the history of bathhouses, and when you kind of trace back that lineage, and you kind of get into the Carthaginians, and then you get into Scipio, and then you get into spirit cooking and all of this weird witchcraft stuff, and I don't know. I always ask, did you do your research? Because I bet you fucking didn't. I'm like, but highbrow society. It's just like, yeah, bro. Highbrow society. Intellectuals. Yeah, we're distinguished intellectuals. No, I'm joking. But I just get so angry when I think of people like Sam Harris, who created something called the intellectual dark web, which was essentially, in my mind, was the first iteration of land grabbing of an intel op, where they basically grabbed the best minds or the most influential actors of that time just to kind of put a hold on them. Because if you look at Joe Rogan, sometimes it's hard not to believe that nigga is not a controlled op. Because it's like, he'll introduce certain subjects at certain times, he'll interview certain people at certain other times, and it's just like, you're clearly a part of this black and white paradigm. Like, clearly here to cause a ruckus. Get people in their tucks. I mean, it's a good thing. I don't know. At least what Joe Rogan's doing. But to some degree, we have to entertain the idea of what got them there in the first place. What's being dangled over their head. That's the way I always see it that way. Where it's like, because something is incentivizing people. Something you learn early on as a kid is that, or at least what I learned as a kid was, because I don't want to get into that, was when people always approached me, they wanted something out of me. Every single time. So I quickly learned that when people do things, it's because they want something. So when I see Joe Rogan maintain this certain facade, and after fully knowing his entire history of his podcast, I really have to entertain the idea now that, why suddenly the change of heart? What created the circumstances for that? And I won't speculate too far because I already know the answer. Shout out to like this 16-year-old kid who did dude, this was such a long time ago. But there were a series of videos that this like 16-year-old did where he basically looked at Joe Rogan, his sponsors, how his money was tied up, and it all led back to like the CIA, and I was just like, damn. And it all happened around he had this interview with like this director, and Joe Rogan had this he played this clip where, bro, show me an alien spaceship and that's all I need. And the camera cuts over to the guy he's interviewing, and the guy interviewing is just like, he has this peculiar face of satisfaction. And if you know anything about I don't know. Either way, this gets into like human behavioral science, understanding the position of faces, poker faces, understanding when what do you call it, when you basically have the fish on the bait. There is this level of like satisfaction of like I've achieved what I've wanted, and that dude had that face, and it was essentially like, really, that's it. I just got to show you a spaceship, an alien spaceship, and depending on what people know about spaceships, the Nazis, aviations. What's that nigga's name who supposedly invented modern aviation? Parkinson's? No, JJ something. Either way, you get into the fact that the Nazis already mapped out all of that science, and then you get into they were the ones that essentially recreated anti gravity, this and that, and gets into a lot of the woo woo. But civilized. The dude in the table is already like there's no more tea in the cup. He's just shook. He's just completely shook at this point. Because when you start actually mapping out real intelligence on the world, not your history book, right? The way I think about it is like, why would any intelligence agency have any vested interest in making sure you learned real history? Especially in a country where they outsource that sort of thing. Especially in a country where most of our facilities of anything like the education system were mapped out by private venture firms that use lobbyist groups to influence politicians in order for them to pass legislation that was pre-written for them, and somebody else got to decide those contracts also beforehand. So the people that got to print the books, the people that got the printing money, and the people that got all those government subsidies were already predestined, and all these other like the dude dropped his cup. It's broken now. I think that's my cue to end this stream, because I've spoken too much about this stuff. My name is FrogBear. I don't really care anymore. FrogBear, Ramirez, Rami, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for maybe another episode